Hello, my name is Thelma Walker, and I am the daughter of Gus Forland. Gus was born in a little town in Norway called Egersund on the southern coast. His father was a school teacher and a rosemauer. The family dates back to the year 1519 in Norway. Gus did not like school, so when a Swedish sailing ship came into the harbor at Egersund, he asked the captain if he could go with as a cabin boy and a cook's helper. The captain said yes, he could do that, but first he had to prove that he could climb to the top of the mast, which Gus did. Gus was so young, he was only 9 years old, that they left Gus on board the ship when the sailors went ashore with a large dog and a sugar tit for comfort. Now, a sugar tit is a lump of hard brown sugar wrapped in a cloth and tied with a string. And Gus would lie down with the big dog and suck on this pacifier until the sailors got back. He was gone for many months, and when he returned to Egersund, he had a very strong Swedish accent, and of course all the Norwegians teased him about that. He sailed for many years on board full-rigged ships between the coast of England and the East Indies. He was shipwrecked several times, but always managed to survive. He first came to Door County in the year 1890. He came to visit his sister and brother-in-law, Ole and Elizabeth Nelson, who lived on a farm in Haynesville. Gus then spent several years in the Chicago area where he did steel construction work for the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893. Gus married Elizabeth Larson at this time, and 3 children were born to the couple. 2 died in infancy, and young Ellert lived to be 4 years old. He had been ill for several weeks with scarlet fever and diphtheria, and because of the contagious nature of the disease, it was necessary to hold the funeral the very next day. It was a sad and difficult time for Gus and Elizabeth. Gus and his brother-in-law, Ole Nelson, then built a schooner on the shores of Government Bluff, now called Potawatomi Park. They used this schooner to sail and ferry hay and feed between Sturgeon Bay and Marinette. For some odd reason, these 2 Norwegians decided to name their boat the German. It was later reported in an Advocate of 1912 that the German was now resting in the boneyard and was rapidly deteriorating. Gus became a policeman and worked in Sawyer and was the arresting officer when Captain Henry Boyd of the Sawyer Fire Department was caught setting his own fires. Gus and Albert Samuelson started a lumber company called Forland and Samuelson, later to become the Sawyer Lumber Company, and then Burns Brothers. Gus and Elizabeth built a lovely home on Maple Avenue in Sawyer. Elizabeth died in 1923, and at that point he married my mother, a young widow with 3 children, and then I was born a year later when my father was 60 years old. My mother's name, by the way, was Frida Radke. Gus then worked for Fuller Goodman, a hay and feed dealership located at the foot of the old railroad bridge in Sawyer. All went well until the Depression, when Gus suffered heavy losses, and we moved to a farm that my father owned about a mile east of Taggies. Gus continued to buy and sell hay, and my mother and a hired man ran the farm. By 1939, we were able to move back to the home on Maple Avenue. Gus was not a very tall man, but he was exceedingly strong. He had a glass eye. He walked with a rolling gait like he was just off of a ship. And he was a kind and loving father and was instrumental in getting Bayview Lutheran Church built. Gus died at the age of 81 after having lived a long and eventful life. And I can still hear him say, when I would walk in the door, "There var you, Thelma."